Hi friends, this is Selvija here. Welcome to my networking channel. Hope all are doing good and safe. And today let us discuss about Ospf designated and the backup designated router. So always Ospf DR and BDR election we always used in a multi-access environment where the network is having more than 3 to 4 routers, right? So here I connected 3 router to a switch. So where R3 I have elected as a designated router. So what is the purpose of DR and BDR election? To minimize the number of adjacencies. So that means one router we elected as a reference point. So all other router will try to establish a neighbor relationship with this DR. So once the DR receives the update, it will pass information to the R1 and R2. This is how it works. So multicast to DR is always 224.0.0.6 is the address, and for DR to other router, the multicast address is 224.0.0.5. So always DR is selected by the router with the highest priority or with the highest router ID. That may be either the physical IP address or the loopback address. So if both physical and the loopback address used, always the highest loopback is preferred. And the default priority is 1. So if the priority is 0, it will be neither DR or BDR. That means we call it as DR other router. So here 3 router, right? So one will be elected as a DR, another one will be as BDR, and third router will be a DR other router. So now let us go to the configuration and let us configure the routing protocol OSPF, right? So router OSPF 100. So let us enable the network 192.168.1.0 followed by the wildcard mask 255 area 0, and similar way go to R2 and configure the routing protocol configuration mode and router OSPF 100 and network is 192.168.1.0 0.0.0.255 area 0. Similar way, go to R3 and configure it. Go to the configuration mode, router OSPF 100, network is 192.168.1.0 followed by 0.0.0.255 area 0, right? So I can't enable the routing protocol OSPF, and what I have done, right, this router I configured with the highest priority. So how we can do is we can set the priority as IP OSPF priority. So let us see the priority value. I have set it in R3. So because R3 I want to elect it as a designated router. Show run interface fast Ethernet 1/0, right? Fast Ethernet 1/0. So this router I configured with the priority 200 because always the default priority will be 1. So always this priority will be, this router will be elected as a designated router because of the highest priority. So let us go here, show IP OSPF interface fast Ethernet 1/0. So you can see the priority is 200. So this is selected as a designated router because of the highest priority, right? Similarly, go to this one, it will be showing the default priority IP OSPF interface. Let us see the priority. It is faster than 0/1, faster than 0/1. So always the default priority it will take is 1. So since it is a multi-access environment, so the hello timer always will be 10 and the dead time will be 40. That is a 4 times the hello interval. So hello interval is used for establishing the neighbor relationship, and dead interval is amount of time it will wait before declaring the neighbor as dead. So this is always for a broadcast environment. So since this is a multi-access environment, right? So all this is always the default interval. Hello will be 10 and the dead interval will be 40 and the default priority will be always 1. So if you want to prefer this as a designated router, we have to configure this with the highest priority. So that's the thing, I have configured this as the highest priority. So now let us check the neighbor relationship. Show IP OSPF neighbor. So this you are able to see, right? 1.3 is elected as a designated router because of the highest priority, right? 1.3 and 1.2 is elected as a backup designated router. So this is having the least priority 1. So this is elected as a backup designated router 1.2 and 1.1 will be the DR other router. So now let us go to R3 and check the neighbor relation. Show IP OSPF neighbor. You are able to see, right, the third router will be elected as a DR other router. So that means it is neither DR nor BDR. It is not elected as a DR and BDR. So we call this as a DR other router. So this is how the neighbor relationship, this is how the DR BDR election occurs in a multi-access environment. So what happens if I'm shutting down this interface? What will happen? It will automatically, this will take over the active role. So let us see what happens. Go to the configuration mode. So I'm going to shut down this interface. Before that, what we can do, let us do a debug IP OSPF adjacency, right? So let us enable this and let us also enable on other router. Debug IP OSPF adjacency, and similar way let us do debug IP OSPF adjacency, right? So I enable this. Let us shut down the master router, that is a DR router. So go to interface fast Ethernet 1/0. Let us shut down this interface. So it will do a re-election, right? You are able to see it is re-electing again, electing DR 1.3, DR is 1.3. So I'm shutting down. So now let us see what happened. So it will flush the LSA again from the DR. It will flush the interface old LSA, and it will again re-elect. Let us see which is elected as a show IP OSPF neighbor. So here you are already shut down the interface. Let us see show IP OSPF neighbor, and let us see the. So it is also electing, right? Show IP OSPF neighbor, since I have done a debug IP. Yeah, so you are able to see, right? After once I shut down this designated router, the BDR will take over the active role. That means BDR will become the DR. It is elected as the active router, that is a designated router. And this will be, let us see what about R1. Show IP OSPF neighbor. Yeah, see, so the DR other router will be elected as a backup designated router. If I'm shutting down this interface, what happen? This R2 will be elected as a designated router, and R1 will become the backup designated router. That is the reason you are able to see R2. So this is always a neighboring ID, that is 1.1, and this is a role, that is a backup designated router. So what happen if I'm reactivating again? So go to R3. Let us reactivate the interface again. Interface fast Ethernet 1/0, and let us do a no shut interface. So I'm just doing a no shut again. So now let us see this re-electing the role. So go to the interface again, and let us do a R1. So show IP OSPF neighbor, or else what we have to do, we have to do a clear IP OSPF. We have to clear the process. Sometimes it will take some time. So still it is showing 1.2 as a thing, right? Already activate the interface, right? R3. So let us do a clear IP OSPF process. Clear IP OSPF process. Let us do yes. And similar way, go to R2 and do a clear IP OSPF. So clear IP OSPF process. Let us do yes. Similar way, go to R1 and do a clear IP OSPF process. Clear IP OSPF process. So let us make it as yes. So what happened? It will clear all the neighbor adjacencies again, and it will try to establish the DR and the BDR election, right? So now let us see. So now let us go to R1 and let us check the neighbor relationship. Show IP OSPF neighbor. Yeah, see, now we are able to see, right? It has again re-established the DR and the BDR role, and again this DR, this R3 take up the DR, and this one become the BDR role. So this is how the designated and the backup designated router works in a multi-access environment. Show IP OSPF neighbor. So this elected as a DR other again, and 1.3 elected as a DR role. So this is how the DR and the BDR works in a multi-access environment. So DR is elected by always with the router with the highest priority or with the highest IP address, and the default priority is 1. And if you want to elect this as a DR other, you have to make it as priority 0. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe me for more videos. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.